In the second section of today's lecture, we are going to discuss about applied environmental microbiology. It deals with how microbes can be used to solve environmental problems. These microbes act like little bioengineers. These microbes can be used to solve various environmental problems. For example, they can be used as biosensors for detection of pollutants in the environment. Microbes can also be used to remove these pollutants from the environment by a process called bioremediation, in which various different types of pollutants can be removed from the environment, such as heavy metals, pesticides, insecticides, and oil spillage. Some microbes can also be used for treatment of wastewater to convert into either usable water or drinkable water. So in this section, we will discuss how microbes can be used for wastewater treatment in detail. When water is obtained from uncontaminated reservoirs fed by clear mountain streams or from deep wells, it requires minimal treatment to make it safe to drink. However, in many big cities, their waters are badly contaminated, such as rivers that receive municipal and industrial waste. So these water cannot be used for drinking or other domestic purposes. So generally the wastewater is composed of both domestic waste and industrial waste. This wastewater is majorly composed of dirty water containing about 0.03% of particles, and every day more than 1,000 tons of solid material is added into the water reservoir, which need to be treated by physical methods, chemical methods, and biological methods. Remember, water treatment is not intended to produce sterile water, but rather water that is free of disease-causing microbes. So wastewater treatment is divided into three steps: primary, secondary, and tertiary, depending upon how much wastewater is contaminated or has an organic matter in it. The first step in sewage water treatment is called primary treatment, in which the water passes through three different chambers. The first chamber has a screen in it. So this process is called screening, in which the water coming through the sewage waste is allowed to pass through a screen. This screen doesn't allow large objects to pass through, like some tissue paper, wipes, diapers, plastic bottles, plastic caps. Water then flows through the screen and moved into the grid chamber. This grid chambers allow slow movement of water. As a result, the pebbles and rocks and grit fall down at the bottom. So, water then passes through another chamber called sedimentation tank, in which the water is allowed to settle down for a very long period of time. As a result, most of the solid matter settled down, which is called sludge. At the same time, the oil floating on the surface is also skimmed out. So almost 40% of the suspended solids are removed by this process. After this process, the wastewater is called clarified water. So an important term wastewater treatment is BOD, which means biochemical oxygen demand. It is the amount of oxygen, dissolved oxygen needed by aerobic biological organism to break down organic matter present in the given water. So it is an indirect measurement of the degree of organic pollutants present in the water. The higher the BOD, the more organic matter it has. So primary treatment reduces the biochemical oxygen demand to only 25%. So the water is then passed through a secondary treatment which is designed to remove most of the organic matters and reduce the BOD. So this treatment is predominantly biological. There are commonly two methods used in secondary treatment, either activated sludge or trickling filter. First, let's discuss what activated sludge is and how it works. Primary effluent enters into a tank called aeration tank, in which there is a continuous supply of pure air or oxygen, and this whole tank is agitated. Bacteria containing activated sludge is also added into the aeration tank. These bacteria degrade organic matter into carbon dioxide and oxygen and settle down at the bottom in a settling tank. Clear effluent then moves into the further step. The activated sludge is again recycled. This process removes about 75 to 95% of the BOD from the sewage. The second type of secondary treatment is trickling filter system, in which wastewater is sprayed upon a bed of coarse material, which is either stones or plastic, and the whole depth of this bed is about 3 to 10 feet. Usually the rocks or plastics are generally 2 in thickness. A biofilm of aerobic microbes grow on the rock or plastic surface. Because of air circulates throughout the rock bed, these aerobic microbes in the slime layer can oxidize much of the organic matter trickling over the surface into carbon dioxide and water. Trickling filters remove about 80 to 85% of the organic matter or BOD. Therefore, they are less efficient than the activated sludge system, but they are comparatively easy to use and have less problems. So the water is then disinfected and released. The disinfection is generally done by a process called chlorination. The water is then discharged into ocean or into flowing stream. The treated wastewater can also be used to irrigate non-food crops. This is an overview of primary treatment and secondary treatment and disinfection. You can see the sewage passes through screen, through sedimentation tanks, enter into either activated sludge system or trickling filter system. They are part of secondary treatment, and the water then is disinfected via chlorination and released into the environment. The sludge is recycled or used as a landfill or manure. You can also see by the colors that the primary treatment is majorly physical process. Pink one indicate microbial processes involved in the treatment. So the secondary treatment is majorly microbial, and the blue one is the chemical treatment which generally take place in the process of disinfection. To make water treatable, it has to pass through a tertiary treatment because the effluent from the secondary treatment contains some residues of BOD. It also contains 50% of the original nitrogen, 70% of the original phosphorus, which can greatly affect any aquatic system when discharged into small streams or recreational lakes. So these processes can be physical, biological, and chemical, majorly physical and chemical. Excess phosphorus is precipitated out by combining with chemicals such as lime and ferric chloride. Filters of fine sands and activated charcoal remove small particle matter and dissolved chemicals. Similarly, excess nitrogen is converted into ammonia and discharged into the air in this treatment tower. Sometimes denitrifying bacteria are also used for this purpose. Finally, the purified water is disinfected and is used for drinking. This water can be discharged into groundwater and can also be used for crops along with drinking. Of how water is treated in a wastewater treatment plant.
Wastewater treatment plants. In wastewater treatment plants, the wastewater treatment plants. In wastewater treatment plants, the wastewater is treated through the physical, chemical, and biological processes to remove the physical, chemical, and biological contaminants. Bar screen. The purpose of this section of water treatment plant is to remove large-sized objects from the wastewater such as rags, sticks, cans, plastic packets, napkins and papers by allowing the sewage to pass through a bar screen. Grit and sand removal. After the wastewater is treated through the bar screen, it goes into the grit and sand removal tank. In this tank, the flow of the water is slowed down to allow sand, pebbles and grit to settle down at the bottom of the tank. Clarification. After the wastewater passes through the grit and sand removal tank, it is allowed to settle down in a large tank with a slope towards the middle. Solid materials like feces settle at the bottom and are removed with the help of a scraper. The deposited waste material thus collected is called sludge. The contaminants that float over the surface of the water are removed by a skimmer. The water that is treated in this process is called clarified water, and the process is called clarification. Sludge in the tank is allowed to decompose with the help of anaerobic bacteria. That is, bacteria which can survive in the absence of oxygen to produce biogas that can be used for the generation of electricity. Aeration. Aeration is the process that follows the process of clarification. Air is pumped into the water so that the aerobic bacteria, that is bacteria which need oxygen to survive, can grow in it. These bacteria consume human wastes, food wastes, soaps and other pollutants that remain in the clarified water. This pumping of air into the clarified water goes on for several hours. Eventually, the microbes start to settle down at the bottom of the tank as activated sludge. This process of removal of water starts from the top of the tank. The activated sludge that settles down at the bottom of the tank is about 97% water. This water is removed by machines or sand drying beds. Dry sludge can be used as manure. The water treated through this process contains
So we come to our last concept checkpoint. That's checkpoint number 3. So try to find out answers of these two questions. Which type of sewage treatment is designed to remove all phosphorus from sewage? The second question is, what metabolic group of anaerobic bacteria is used in sludge digestion system? Try to find out these answers and we'll discuss them in our interactive section.